lovely people, my name is Nicole and it is the end of another month and so time for a monthly wrap up. I read a lot of comic books this month, so the numbers of books I read are higher than usual, but as for actual page count, it's not actually that much different than most months. So it's been an okay month. For the past couple weeks, I've been a little kind of with reading, just because there's been so much going on. Getting home from school, having to unpack and all that stuff, getting a new job, all that jazz. But I think I'm finally sort of back in the swing of things, so let's just jump right in, start talking about the books I read this month. First, I read The Fuck Off Squad, and this is a comic that I picked up at Comic-Con, and it was not what I expected. I expected the entire thing to be about this group of gay skater girls, and that was only the first half of it, and then the rest of it was just kind of random other comics. Not that those were bad, they just weren't what I expected, weren't why I got it, and I wanted more of the story that was sort of the main reason that I got it. But when it comes to the main story about these gay skater girls, I liked what I got. I wish there was more. It didn't really feel like there was that much of a conclusion or just that much story in general. Overall, I feel like this comic collection thing, I don't know what to call it, was just kind of so I gave it 2.5 stars. Then I read Paper Girls, and this is the first volume in a new series from Image Comics, and I really enjoyed this. I thought that it was really interesting, great art style, weird but intriguing concept. I am still a little unsure about exactly what's going on and the general setup, but I like what I read in this, and I'm definitely excited to read more. I thought it was really clever, and I'm still trying to get all the characters straight, but I think that's something that will come with further volumes, so I gave this 4 stars. Then I read Phonogram Volume 1, Rue Britannica. I don't have my copy with me, I lent it to a friend. So I was not a huge fan of this one. This is one of those comics or books or whatever that I see the appeal and I can see why some people might like it. I just think I am very much not the target audience. This is the kind of thing that I think would be very much enjoyed by people who are huge music lovers and who really know all their classic music references and all that stuff, because there's a ton of that in this. So I had a really hard time following the story and just getting the magic system straight. It was never really explained, and so I wasn't sure what the rules were, what you could or couldn't do with it, just in general what the hell was going on. I think that writing wise and art wise it was really cool. So I gave it 2.5 stars because I can definitely see where its merit is, and I can see where other people might enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. Then I read Exit Pursued by a Bear by E.K. Johnson, and first of all, trigger warnings for sexual assault in this book. The main character, very early in the story, is drugged and raped, which is the setup for the entire book. I think it was absolutely beautifully written. I think that it tackled a lot of really difficult subjects, and I think it did it really well. I think one of my favorite parts about this is that there was a focus on how there's not really one correct way to deal with trauma and to deal with emotions, because throughout the entire book Hermione was second-guessing herself and saying, well, should I be reacting like this? Because I don't feel that. She had this therapist throughout the book who was constantly reminding her, it's okay, you feel what you need to feel. And I think that's a really important message. Also, if you're into cheerleading, the main character is a cheerleader, and there is lots of that in the book. That's one aspect of it that I actually really enjoyed reading about, because my best friend's a cheerleader. And overall, I just thought this book was fantastic, wonderfully written, and this title is, honestly, this was kind of a title buy, just because I love this title so much. It's so great. So I gave it 5 stars. Then I read The Hidden Oracle by Rick Riordan, and first of all, openly bisexual middle grade protagonist. Thank you, Rick Riordan. Also, openly gay couple, and it's a middle grade book. And I am so happy of the existence of this book. I loved this. I thought it was funny and clever, and Apollo is, I mean, he's no Percy Jackson, but I did really enjoy him as a protagonist. I loved Meg. I thought she was absolutely hilarious. I loved the little glimpses we got of some of the characters from the previous Percy Jackson books and Heroes of Olympus series, and I loved the just the presence of Nico D'Angelo, because as we all know, Nico is my child and I love him so much. So yeah, if you're a Rick Riordan fan, I highly recommend picking this up. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas, and first of all, content warning, there is a lot of explicit sex in this, more so than in most young adult books, or like all young adult books. This is really more middle grade book level sex. It's pretty damn explicit. Also, trigger warning, there are discussions of previous sexual assaults in this book, so if that is something you're sensitive to, just be aware that it is in there. It's not discussed in explicit detail, but there is discussion of it. So I forgot how much Sarah J Maas just like rips your heart out and then just toys with it like it's a puppet. Cause this, oh my god, I could not put this down when I picked it up. I actually have an entire video review, so if you want super in-depth thoughts, I'll link to that in the doobly-doo. But this was amazing, and I loved all the developments that happened in it, and I love Rhysand. He's wonderful and beautiful, and I'm so in love with him, and I am very intrigued and kind of scared as to what will happen next. Because I think the next book is the last book in the series. If you like Sarah J Maas or high fantasy, romancy type things, then pick it up. Yes, definitely, it's amazing. During finals week, because that's when it arrived at my dorm, worst timing ever, I read Hamilton, The Revolution, and this book is beautiful. It is a gift from the gods. It is everything I could have ever wanted. It gives annotations on the lyrics, and it has all the lyrics, and it has behind the scenes of the creation of the show and the casting and the writing, and it's so good, and it is everything a Hamilton fan could want, and of course I gave it 5 stars. Then I read The Crown by Kiera Cass, and I honestly don't have a ton to say about this book. I enjoyed it. I didn't really love it. This is the first time that this has ever happened to me, but in the like love triangle, it wasn't really a love triangle in this because it's more people, but whatever, in the like decision of who to end up with, the character I was rooting for didn't win. This has never happened to me before. I'm always so good at picking the winner, and it didn't happen, and I don't know how to process that. But that's really the only like really super emotional thing I have to say about this. It was good. It was a fine end to the series, but nothing about it really stood out that much. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Spider-Man Deadpool Volume 0, Don't Call It a Team Up. So this collects all the old stories that Spider-Man and Deadpool were in together, to sort of catch you up so that you're ready for Volume 1, in which we go into new stories of Spider-Man and Deadpool together. This was collecting stories from a lot of different comics runs, a lot of different artists and writers, and I loved it. Spider-Man and Deadpool are such a great dynamic together, because you have Deadpool who's just doing his own thing and joking around and flirting mercilessly with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's just sitting over here like, oh my god, can you please just like sit down for a second and stop killing people. It's hilarious, and I love them together, and I cannot wait for the new run that is just their own stories of them being bros and having fun together, and I love it, and I'm so excited. I gave this 5 stars. Then I read The New Avengers Volume 1, Everything is New. This is from the like newest Marvel run thing. I don't know. I had a really hard time figuring out which one was the right comic for me to get, just because it's so confusing, because there's like volumes within volumes, and you have to figure out like which era of Marvel. It's difficult, but this is like the new one, and I did not know that Squirrel Girl was going to be in it, and that made me really excited because I love Squirrel Girl. She's my fave. TBH, the main reason I picked this up is because of Hulkling and Wiccan, because I saw some stuff on Tumblr about them, and them being like one of the first openly gay Marvel couples. So I heard that they were in this, and so I picked it up, and I liked it. I didn't absolutely love it. It was a little bit more action heavy than I tend to like my stories to be. Not that I don't like action and like fight scenes in my comics, but I do like a little bit more of like character development and non-fighting scenes that have like just people hanging out with each other and like developing relationships. Just a little bit more character and a little less action is really what I prefer. But I did enjoy this, and I think the last like story in it was my favorite. But yeah, I am definitely interested in seeing where this series goes. So I gave it 3.5 stars. Then I read Lady Renegades by Rachel Hawkins, and I think with this series, my enjoyment of the books has kind of just gone like steadily downhill. And that's not to say that this was bad. It wasn't. I just didn't really feel that emotionally connected to the characters. So I didn't really like get too upset when bad things happened to them. And I mean, I was definitely like rooting for the good guys to win and rooting for like the main couple to be together and all that stuff. I just didn't care that much. I wasn't emotionally attached, and I didn't really have that strong of a memory of what happened in the last book. I mean, I remembered basic overall plot points, but nothing too specific. So this was a solid end to the series, but honestly, I think this is a series that is probably best marathoned. Just because it is an enjoyable series, and I definitely think it's a good, fun, young adult sort of urban fantasy series. Really great like atmosphere of the South, and I love the contrast of the sort of Southern belle with the badass fighting. But I think it is one of those series that if you wait too long between reading books, you just kind of forget about the characters and you don't really care anymore. So I do wish I'd marathoned this series, but as it is, I gave this 3.5 stars. Then I read Young Avengers Volume 1, Style Over Substance, and I loved this. So Wiccan and Hulkling are in this too, which I didn't realize. I thought they were just in the previous run of Young Avengers, but apparently they're in this one too, which makes me happy, because this one I really like fell in love with them. They're adorable together. And I honestly fell in love with like all the characters in this book. They're all wonderful, and I just want them to be happy and like best friends, and I am so interested in where this is going. It had that balance that I was talking about of awesome action and like battle scenes, and then also like quieter scenes of character development and relationship development. I think the child Loki is hilarious, and I'm definitely excited to see where he goes character development wise. America Chavez is my favorite person ever, and I just loved everything about this, so I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, and I actually have a full video review on this, so if you want to know more in-depth thoughts, I will link that in the doobly-doo. But I loved this. I mean, it mixes two of my favorite things, gays and Greek mythology, so I mean, what's not to love? Okay, there are actually a few things I didn't love, but none of those are Madeline Miller's fault. They are all the fault of either Greek society being shitty or just the way that the Iliad was written being shitty. There were a couple things that got me frustrated when it comes to Achilles and the treatment of women, and then also the existence of the Trojan War just being absolutely ridiculous. But overall, story-wise, I loved this. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson, and everything Morgan Matson writes is just gold. Fact of life. She's amazing. I feel like this one was less emotional than some of her other books, but that didn't mean that I didn't love it as much. Clark is pretty much the perfect love interest. I want one, basically. I think that the exploration of family and friendship in this was fantastic, and I loved the sort of book nerd aspects of this. It was just a lot of fun and a fantastic summery contemporary read definitely recommend it because I recommend anything that Morgan Matson writes. So 5 stars. Next, I read The Blood Between Us by Zach Miller, and I loved everything about this book up to the ending. I hated the ending, but I loved everything before it. So first of all, shout out of representation. The sort of main parental figures in this book are a gay couple, and then the main character is ambiguously not straight. It's clear that he likes girls and likes guys, but he does not put a specific label on his sexuality. He just kind of hilariously gets really offended whenever anyone insinuates that he would be heterosexual. It was one of my favorite things about this book. But I really enjoyed all the mystery aspects and the dramatic family dynamics of this book up to the very end, when the ending just felt rushed and kind of like it came out of nowhere, and there were so many plot points, like plot threads that weren't concluded, and it just felt like kind of a mess and really rushed. And I was disappointed because it was so good up until that point. I read this piece after watching Emma from Emma Books' review for it, and I honestly agree with pretty much everything that she said in her review. So I'll link that down below. So if you basically want to know really in-depth versions of someone else saying what I'm feeling, you know what I mean, I'll link in the doobly-doo. I gave it 3.75 stars. Then I read 2 ebooks that are actually kind of the same story. I read both Penny's story and Ian's story of Second Chances, which is the second book in the By the Number series by Abigail Barnett. This is her series about Ian and Penny, and they are adorable together. I love this idea of writing a story from both sides. Personally, I think I prefer reading Penny's side, although that's probably a lot because I can relate to Penny more, given that I am a young female and not a middle-aged man running an architecture firm. But I really enjoyed this book. I gave Penny's story 5 stars, and I gave Ian's story 4.5 stars. I always feel like I want more description of what Ian's feeling from Ian's story, but maybe that's just because I read Penny's story first, and I just want Ian's side to fill in every single tiny little blank, and that's not how books work. You don't get a description of what someone is feeling behind every single word they say. That would be a little ridiculous. But I did really enjoy what I got, and I love Abigail Barnett's writing. There's some really difficult content in this, as in a lot of Abigail Barnett's books. There's actually a trigger warning in the very beginning of the book, which is something that I love that she does. But she takes these really difficult topics and handles them so well, while still being really honest about it and not either romanticizing these horrible things or like turning them into some horror story. She's just really honest about feelings and emotions and how people process things, and I've always loved her writing, and I am so excited to see what's up next for Ian and Penny. So those are all the books I read this month. I hope you enjoyed this. If you read any of these, please let me know what you thought in the comments. I love you, and I'll see you later. Bye!